If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip?
Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant, he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about the team. Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like this show out, share it out on Facebook, retweet it out on YouTube or Twitter, and make sure you smash that thumbs up button and subscribe button on the YouTube page as we continue to try to grow this YouTube page. We greatly appreciate any and all support you can have. We got lots to talk about today. The title of the show today is Doc Rivers and Joe Girardi failing this city. And I think we have maybe a little bit of an overreaction to it, but a really solid answer that yes, they are. So show's over. Yes, they're failing, whatever. Yeah. So we got lots to talk about today, but again, like I said, make sure you share this show out, hit those subscribe buttons, follow buttons, retweet buttons, share buttons, all that stuff. Because we want to get as many people involved as possible. Make sure you head over to the YouTube page if you want to get involved, if you want your voice heard. That's the best place to get your voice heard on the YouTube page. I can put your questions, comments, thoughts right up on the screen like this, like these examples I've got. And this is, I put this one up here on the DSM YouTube page as an example, but also Doc should no longer be called Doc. Can we just call Doc Rivers Glenn Rivers? Because he's not the doctor. He doesn't have any operating skills whatsoever in basketball. So what we're going to do today, we're obviously going to talk Sixers and their loss last night in Game 2. We're going to talk Phillies, their loss last night, hence getting swept by what was, we thought, a bad Texas Rangers team. Obviously, they're not as bad as the Phillies. But we're going to talk about the coaches, the leaders of these teams, not just the leaders of these teams, the management in general of these teams, because I think that is where this city is being failed. This fan base is being failed. Joel Embiid is being failed. So let's get started with the Sixers aspect of it first. We'll talk Phillies in the second half of it. But we'll start with the Phillies. The Sixers. They lose 119 to 103 to the Heat last night. And there's so much to unpack from the game. But the first and foremost thing that I want to talk about of the game, and like I said, Doc Rivers is failing this team. Doc Rivers is failing the fans. He's failing the players on this team with the way he's running this team. But we are also missing Joel Embiid. And there's literally zero doubt in my mind that we are at least 1-1 right now in this series with Joel Embiid on the floor, possibly 2-0. And that's how good Joel Embiid is. Joel Embiid is so elite. I think this series proves anybody that didn't vote for Joel Embiid for MVP. And there are some rumors floating around that Wednesday night he's going to be awarded MVP. Some blue check mark made a tweet saying that he was going to be MVP and everybody's coming to Philly to give him the award on Wednesday. And then like 45 minutes later, this dude deleted the tweet. Maybe he was trolling. I don't know. They'll give a blue check mark to anybody these days. But if you didn't vote for Joel Embiid for MVP, this series proves why Joel Embiid is the MVP of this league. Because this Sixers team, I don't care that you've got James Harden, one of the greatest players of all time, young Tyrese Maxey. I don't care who you put out there. Joel Embiid is this team. And he carried this team for how long now? For this year and years past. I don't want to hear anything anymore about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is the MVP of this league. He is one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league. He may go down now as one of the best centers of all time. That is how dominant. That is how important he is. MVP stands for most valuable player. Obviously, the most valuable player on their team is Joe Embiid. I'm trying to keep my hand up here. There's a little sun glare coming through the window there this morning. I got to get a curtain up over those windows there in this office here. Try to block that from, you guys there. I hold my head up. My allergies are bothering me again today. But again, I'm not taking a day off like other people do with bad allergies. But look, Joel Embiid's importance to this team is undoubtedly, seen these first two games against the Miami Heat. And then last night during the broadcast, one of the sideline reporters says they spoke, or maybe it was Grant Hill spoke, about talking to Joel Embiid and whether he'd be back for Game 3. And we're all assuming, we're all hoping he's back Friday night for Game 3. But that report did not sound encouraging, that he was still experiencing some headaches. He couldn't look at his cell phone screen till last night because it was still giving him headaches. That did not sound encouraging for a guy that's going to be back by Friday to clear concussion protocol. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. We're praying, because if he's not back in Game 3, this series is over. Just lock it up, pack it away, game over, just give the series to Miami. This Sixers team does not stand a chance. Now, Doc Rivers is failing this team as the coach of this team, but Daryl Morey has failed this team already by putting this team together. So we're going to talk about that, Doc Rivers, which I forget which podcast. Somebody put it out there last night. We can't call him Doc Rivers anymore. He's just Glenn Rivers. We just call him Glenn Rivers. It's going to be really hard to retrain our mind to say Glenn Rivers, but I'm going to try to call him Glenn Rivers when I can. He fouled this team last night, for sure. But Daryl Morey fouled him by giving him this team. We're going to get to Daryl Morey in a minute. But Doc Rivers last night, I mean, an unprepared team last night. Completely unprepared. But, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, James Harden, we'll talk about them specifically in a second. You can only do so much. Glenn Rivers, almost messed that one up. Glenn Rivers starting DeAndre Jordan again. DeAndre Jordan was not the issue last night. He didn't play great. He didn't play as bad as Game 1. He showed some, self-respect and came out and put a little bit more hustle and energy out there. He didn't totally blow the game, for the Sixers. He made a couple alley-oop dunks. He got a couple rebounds. The offensive rebounding thing was much more controlled. It wasn't they still got some very critical offensive rebounds, the Heat, but not as many. But this bench and the way Doc Rivers utilizes it, you are in a Game 2 of the NBA playoffs. Backs up against the wall, down 1-0, could be down 2-0. Hopefully you get your star back. You don't know whether you are or not. And when. And you're going to roll Furkan Korkmaz out there, 16 minutes. Matisse Thybulle, 21 minutes. The bench, it just showed how bad the bench was last night. Furkan Korkmaz, he's one of those guys, and I've talked about him all season long. You throw him out there in the regular season, every game, for 3 or 4 minute stretch in the second quarter. If his shots are falling, great. You roll with him for 10 or 15 minutes for the game. If his shots aren't falling, you pull him. Last night, there was a point last night where he was on the court with James Harden, and Furkan Korkmaz was bringing the ball up the court. That means you were using Furkan to help run the offense. In no scenario in the regular season, let alone in the postseason, should Furkan Korkmaz be running the offense. I know during the early part of the season when Ben Simmons wasn't there, people were hurt, whatever it was, that you had Furkan as your de facto backup point guard. That was the regular season. That was Game 20, Game 40, whatever it was. We were Game 2 of the second round of the playoffs, the Eastern Conference semifinals, and you're running Furkan Korkmaz out there. Look, my wife gave me a hard time. Oh, but he tried really hard. He put out effort. But effort only takes you so far if there's no skill to back it up. The guy plays with Michael Jordan confidence, but I always I joke around on Twitter all the time that he's the Turkish MJ. But dude, he shouldn't be out there. George Niang was 0-7 in Game 1 from 3. He made one finally in the second half. But the dude fouled out, and he only played 10 minutes last night. So in Game 1, he killed us on offense. Game 2, he killed us on defense because he couldn't stay in the game. 6 fouls in 10 minutes? Are you kidding me? You're not Paul Reed. You're George Niang. You're a veteran. You've been in this league for a long time. Pathetic. Matisse Thybulle. Why on God's green earth is he even playing anymore at this point? Any little semblance of confidence that this guy had, any of it, is all gone. There's no confidence left in Matisse Thybulle whatsoever. Played 21 minutes last night. Guess how many shots? If you did not watch the game, if you were forcing yourself to watch that Phillies game instead, or if you decided it just wasn't worth your time watching that Sixers game last night, and you don't know, or if you watched the game, you might not know because there were 0 shots taken from Matisse. What point is Matisse doing on the floor when his defense isn't as good because he's lost confidence? He's not grabbing rebounds. He got a steal in 1 block last night, but they were okay. All right, I'm not going to give him a hard time for at least doing something. But what's the point? You literally played him 21 minutes last night, but Danny Green 23 minutes. And I know Danny Green had an awful game. He had the George Niang game last night, shooting 1 from 10 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3. But sorry, my allergies really are killing me, guys. I'm trying to fight through them here for the show. But what's the point of playing Matisse for 21 minutes if he's at least Danny Green's making an attempt? Maybe he shoots himself out of it eventually and gets hot. The Heat still have to, at least guard against the fact that Danny Green has got that veteran presence. He will shoot himself out of that slump at some point. Danny Green has had some good games this playoff, against the Raptors. Danny Green at least is active on defense. Matisse doesn't even look active on defense. He's getting beat. That was the one thing that Matisse does well, is not get beat on defense. And he's getting beat now on defense because the overall confidence level of this guy is shot. It's gone. There's nothing left that Matisse brings to the table. Shake Milton played 1 minute off the bench. You put 18 minutes in Furkan and 39 minutes between Matisse and Furkan. But Shake Milton played 1 minute last night in mop-up duty after the game was over. Shake Milton was the one guy that was at least consistently for 10 minutes a game putting some effort out there on the court this playoffs run so far, even at the end of the season. He had his best game of the year when we beat the Miami Heat earlier this season. It was the Shake Milton Furkan bench game. And you're going to roll him out there not till the mop-up duty last minute of the game, but you're going to put Furkan Korkmaz out there running the offense at a moment of the game. It was only 1 or 2 times, but you're going to do that instead of Shake Milton? And I'm not trying to say Shake Milton's a superstar savior of this series, but all these things I'm saying, they are all turning back to Glenn Rivers. Because, again, he's not Doc Rivers anymore to me. He is Glenn Rivers. How do you make this rotation? You had a time last night where you had Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, Paul Reed, Matisse Thybulle, and Furkan Korkmaz on the court for a stretch. Obviously, the Heat are going to double Harris or Maxey, whoever has the ball. You don't have to put a guy on Matisse because Matisse isn't going to shoot the ball. Paul Reed, again, I talked about it yesterday. Paul Reed has potential. I give Sixers fans, a hard time for their love of third-string centers. But Paul Reed has slowly, over the last month or so, started to show me some. But the problem is Paul Reed has not been given the opportunity to learn and grow yet. That's Glenn Rivers' fault. Sorry. It's going to take a long time to train my head there. Glenn Rivers failed Paul Reed by not giving him more experience in the regular season. Daryl Morey failed Paul Reed by bringing in DeAndre Jordan and taking minutes away from Paul Reed. So there's not much offensive ability there. He did make some. He made 1 or 2 really good moves down into the basket there last night. I will say that. But he's still so raw of a basketball player. And then, and Furkan, Furkan's Furkan. We know what Furkan, we signed him to a 3-year, $15 million deal last offseason. So he's going to be here next year or the year after that, once we find a way to trade him, which I doubt it. So you run those 3 guys out there with with your 2 starters. Obviously, that's going to be a bad thing. That was the lineup they ran in game 1 in the 3rd quarter when the game got blown out of hand. He ran this lineup in the 2nd quarter. The game got out of hand again. Glenn Rivers doesn't care whether it works or not. He's just going to keep doing it because he thinks it should work. And it doesn't work. All right? So then there was another point of the game where you had James Harden and 4 bench guys. Let me see here. I forget which ones it was. It was the four best. You had James Harden, Yang, Reed, Matisse, and Furkan out there together. It was for a couple minutes. Come on now. James Harden's not the guy that you're going to throw out there with four random scrubs off your bench and expect it to be productive. What is up with that? That is all Glenn Rivers. The rotations that Glenn Rivers used last night. Final tally last night of your starts. Harden played 41 minutes, Maxey 43, Tobias 38, Danny Green 23, and DeAndre Jordan played 13 minutes. I probably played DeAndre Jordan a few more minutes. Paul Reed 25 minutes last night. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's okay. So that was 25 and 13. So you had 38 minutes there. That means they went about 10 minutes of small ball with Niang as the center. I don't maybe 8 minutes because you had some mop up duty there at the end of the game. I don't know. Danny Green should have been playing 30 minutes last night. Tobias Harris should have gotten over 40. I'm actually surprised Tobias Harris was fine. Took a really nasty spill early in the game, and there was a little stretch there in that first half, beginning of third quarter, where he was a little slow. He still had a really good game overall, but he definitely felt some pain there from that fall. But the guy's a trooper. Guy's showing that he's got the most heart. Well, him out of the guys that played last night, some of the strongest heart and desire and will to win there last night by giving it his all. But these guys. I mean, when you're shorthanded, when you don't have Joel Embiid, James Harden 41 minutes, probably should have been 43 minutes. Tyrese Maxey 45, 46 minutes. Tobias Harris should have played 40, 45 minutes last night. Danny Green 30. Your bench should have been a 7 to 8 man bench. George Niang 10 minutes max. Paul Reed backup center maybe 20, 25 minutes. Furkan Korkmaz you should have basically been running George Niang, Matisse, Paul Reed, maybe Shake Milton, but no more than 10 minutes for any of those guys, really, honestly, at this point, outside of Paul Reed, because you kind of need him right now. Let's look at those starters, though, for a second. Danny Green, obviously, we know he had probably his worst game of the playoffs, maybe his worst game as a Sixer, 1 of 10, 1 of 9 from deep. He really didn't do much. He did get a couple steals, still plays active defense. Danny Green is one of those guys, he'll keep taking a shot. Danny Green is what you want Matisse Thybulle to be. Matisse Thybulle's younger, got more energy, got more bounce in his step, but he doesn't have the confidence. Danny Green has the confidence. He's still going to put up his shots. And when his shots aren't falling, he's still going to put effort on the defensive end. He's still one of the most active guys on defense, hands up all the time. Tobias Harris, we talked about it, 9 of 17 last night, 21 points. It wasn't his best shooting night. I'm telling you, again, that fall he took early in the game, I really thought that was, that wasn't like him flopping and hoping for a foul call or whatnot. That was a serious fall there. His hip, his elbow, his hand, all of it. His tailbone looked like it took a brunt of that fall. I'm glad he was okay enough to play. The dude had 4 steals last night. FYI, he led your team in steals. Again, we talked about it yesterday with Scotty on this show. Let's put some respect on Tobias Harris's defense. The guy's playing some great defense right now. So, Tobias, excellent effort last night. Again, Tyrese Maxey, I don't want to even think about what that score would have been like if Tyrese Maxey didn't show up. He still didn't have a great 3-point shooting night, 1 of 4, but the guy's put 34 points up. He took 22 shots, led the team in shots, and rightfully so. So, without Joel Embiid on the court, he should be the leading shot getter. No doubt about it. Got to the free throw line, did everything he could, drove, was aggressive, energy. What we've grown to love with Tyrese Maxey, he did it last night. Like I said, DeAndre Jordan in his short little spurts last night, he wasn't awful last night. 6 points, 5 rebounds. What you expect? Nothing special, nothing flashy. 13 minutes is 13 minutes. That's fine. Whatever. Then there's James Harden. There's the curious question of James Harden. 20 points, 9 assists last night, 1 block, 3 turnovers. Played 41 minutes. 6 of 15 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. Look, James Harden, I keep saying James Harden is one of these days. He's going to have one of those old school James Harden games. Man, I hate to say it. I don't know if James Harden is going to have one of those old school James Harden games this playoffs. I just don't. James Harden just might not have it anymore. I said it as a joke a few weeks ago during the Raptors series. James Harden was playing himself into having to force himself to pick up that player option for next year. It's like $35 million or something like that. I don't even know what it is. I just know he has a player option. It's probably like 30-some million. Nobody's going to give him a 4 or 5 year max deal. Not with the way he's playing. He's slower. When he tries to do his little patented step back jump three, there's not as much spring in it. No, not as much jump back. Not as much separation. When he drives the basket, occasionally you see a little burst. But as the game wears on, I said he needed to play 43, 44 minutes last night. But honestly, I don't think he can play 41 minutes anymore. He doesn't have it in him. Unfortunately, because of the bench that we have on this team, he kind of has to, but he doesn't have it in him. I know when James Harden came here, and they talk a lot about it on the broadcast. We're going to get into the broadcast in a second. James Harden got the ball and slid Tyrese Maxey over that off guard ball spot there. Dude, if I'm the Sixers, if I'm Glenn Rivers, which we know Glenn Rivers won't do this because Glenn Rivers is a stubborn SOB, I'm putting the ball in Maxey's hands all the time. James Harden is playing off the ball. If I'm the coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, because James Harden just doesn't have it in him anymore, and it's something that bothers me so much. Happened all the time with Ben Simmons, super strong guy, and I just never knew how to. It's laziness with the ball. When James Harden's holding the ball out in front, or when he's doing his little pitter patter dribble there, or when he's getting ready to make a move, he doesn't hold the ball firm. I see more tip balls out of his hand. He doesn't lose it most of the time. He recovers, but it stops the flow. Whatever play they're about to do or whatever move he's about to make, then it forces them to rush a shot. He gets the ball slapped out of his hand so much. Some of it's strength. You got to hold the ball nice and firm when you're ready to do that. When you're dribbling, got to be focused. But it's also a lack of focus, a lack of energy, lack of effort. It's so easy to knock the ball out of his hands anymore. And like I said, he's not turning it over all the time when it's slapped out of his hand. But it happened a couple times last night. He's getting ready to do his little dribble thingy here, pitter-patter, step, whatever you want to call it. Ball gets slapped out. He has to run back and get it. Now there's 3 seconds left on the clock. Forced to take a bad shot, whatever, or pass it off to somebody else to take a bad shot. Tyrese Maxey took 2 awful 3-point shots last night, but they weren't his fault. He was getting the ball with 2 seconds left in the shot clock. And that's another whole thing. This whole James Harden ISO. When James Harden has the ball, it slows the whole other offense down. There's no ball movement. There's no cutting. There's no nothing going on. And then James Harden holds it until 2 seconds left, passes it off to somebody else, makes them, Tyrese Maxey too bad. Danny Green was 1 of 9, but 3 or 4 of those were bad 3-point shots because he was getting the ball in a bad spot with very little time left to make a move and get free. I hate to say it. I was so excited when James Harden got here. I'm still making that trade 10 times out of 10 to bring James Harden here to get rid of Ben Simmons. But man, is James Harden holding this team back right now. I hate to say it. James Harden is holding this team back right now. Doc Rivers is holding this team back. Glenn Rivers, I got it right a few times in a row there. Messed up there. Glenn Rivers is holding this team back. James Harden is holding this team back because of the way Glenn Rivers is using James Harden. You got to switch it up. You got to get the ball out of James Harden's hand. Keep it in Tyrese Maxey's hand. James Harden actually probably would not mind not having the ball in his hand. James Harden doesn't want to be the guy anymore. But he is. He's forced to. James Harden has a major issue there. But all of this is solvable. All of these issues, all the crap I'm giving Glenn Rivers, fire Glenn Rivers right now. Just fire mid-play. I don't think a coach has ever been fired mid-playoff series. But just do it. Okay, all this negative stuff I got, it's all easily solved. Joe Embiid comes back game 3 on Friday. All of a sudden, we're right back in the series. Joel Embiid is that important, that effective, especially a team like this against the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are not a good team, in my opinion. I just don't see it. Jimmy Butler is still the man. And I put out a tweet last night. I didn't get much traction like some of the other ones I put out there. But there's James Harden and Jimmy Butler. I want to compare those two guys for a second. They're both older. They're both at the later half of their career. They're both not where they used to be when they were the elite of the elite in the league. James Harden still plays the exact same way. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely Philly Eagle fan. If Embiid comes back game 3, we still win this. Maybe absolutely agree with you, 110%. But James Harden still plays like the old school James Harden. He just doesn't have the skill set. He's a little too old. He's a little too tired, a little too whatever, to do that. Jimmy Butler isn't the same guy. But if you watch Jimmy Butler last night or in game one, the Jimmy Butler we saw here in Philadelphia a few years ago, it's a different Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler has adjusted his game to what his current skill set allows him to do. And he uses his NBA knowledge that he has from his years of experience to adjust his gameplay and his style of play. And you know what that does? It makes him still a very effective basketball player. He's not the old school Jimmy Butler, is he ever going to win an MVP kind of guy? But he still put up 22 points last night, 12 of 6, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. Played 37 minutes last night on a bum knee. He even made a 3-point shot, which he doesn't do anymore. And that's the problem with James Harden. James Harden still thinks he can blow by people. He can't. James Harden still thinks he can make that step back 3. Problem is he can't get the separation, but he still takes it over and over again. James Harden needs to sit and talk to Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler tell him, yo, this is what you are now as a player. Do this, this, and this. That's why you need the ball out of James Harden's hand. You need it in Tyrese Maxey's hand. And find an open look occasionally for James Harden. But again, like we're saying, it all comes down to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid comes back. Even if he's at 80%, as Mark says here, we win game 3. And we're right back in this series. If he comes back at 90%, we're right back in the series. And we just need him to come back. And that just goes to show why he is the MVP of this league. Now, will he get the award on Wednesday night? I don't know. That was some straight trolling or leaked information that they didn't want. But he is the MVP. Now, real quick, to wrap up the Sixers talk, I kind of mentioned his name a few times. Daryl Morey is as much to blame as Glenn Rivers and as James Harden. Why? Because it's what I've been saying since the day we brought him to Philadelphia. What has Daryl Morey ever done? You traded for James Harden. You traded for James Harden again. 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 That's all he's ever done in his career is trade for James Harden. And the first time he traded for James Harden won an MVP in Houston. And that's why he got Executive of the Year. But they never won anything in Houston because he was so dead set focused on bringing in James Harden that he failed to build a proper team around him. And yes, again, I make that trade for Ben Simmons, who's having back surgery. Out of nowhere, back surgery, okay, whatever. Don't know if I really want to talk about Ben Simmons. I make that trade 100 times over. But we all knew game 1, game 40, game 70, that this bench was weak. And Daryl Morey did nothing. Daryl Morey brought back Furkan Korkmaz. We told Furkan, go test free agency. Oh, nobody went. All right, we'll give you a 3-year, $15 million deal. Come on. Daryl Morey failed this team by not addressing this bench in the offseason last year. He was so focused on getting rid of Ben Simmons and trying to bring in James Harden. He did nothing to address the bench last year. He didn't do anything to address it this year. If you think about it, if you look at this bench right now, okay, Shake Milton was here last year. Matisse Thybulle was here last year. Furkan Korkmaz was here last year. Paul Reed was here last year. This team is not much different than the team we had here last year that fell short. They did nothing to make any improvements to this team. I put the blame. If Glenn Rivers is blame 1A, then Daryl Morey is 1B. He's not 2, he's 1B. James Harden is 2 on the list, or 3 if you count that. But it's Glenn Rivers and it's Daryl Morey. They are the ones. We lose this series. There'll be excuses. Well, we didn't have Joel Embiid. He was injured. He had the thumb. He had the eye. Blah blah blah. They'll make excuses. Maybe Glenn Rivers, gets his walking papers. Maybe he just decides it's time to step away. Whatever it may be. But Daryl Morey isn't going anywhere. But he should. If I'm Josh Harrison, Sixers ownership group, I'm looking in the mirror. And I'm like, yo, this is not cutting it. I'm going out there and looking for somebody else to run this team. Hell, if Elton Brand maybe learned something, let him retake the reins of this team. He actually did a pretty decent job in drafting Elton Brand when he was still in control of this team. I don't know. But if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm marching to not Daryl Morey's office, but Josh Harris's office. I'm marching to the upper levels of the ownership building. Going to the front. I don't care what the secretary. No, you can't go in there. You need an appointment, sir. No. I'm pounding right through that secretary and going right into the office and be like, yo, I demand changes. Because this is not going to, I'm not going to waste MVP caliber play. All-time great play when the top of the team, the leadership of this team, is not going to do everything in its power to make it right. You've got Joel Embiid. You've got Tyrese Maxey, a budding superstar. You look at last night's game. Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid together can be a dominant 1-2 punch. You got to remember, Tyrese Maxey is only 21. He is still growing and learning how to play NBA basketball. Next year, he's going to be even better. So, I'm marching to that office. I want Daryl Morey gone. I want Glenn Rivers gone. If I'm Joel Embiid, I'm not going to waste any more of my career. He says he wants those chips over the MVP trophies. I actually believe that. You're not going to get a chip with Daryl Morey running. He's proven it enough now that he is not a tight. He might luck into a title at some point in his lifetime, but he is not a guy that could build a championship caliber team. He just can't. There's literally, if Daryl Morey's still in charge, there is a part of me that thinks that no matter what we've seen with James Harden, he is going to give James Harden a max extension in this offseason. Maybe not the full 5 years, maybe that 3-4 year deal, kind of like what Kyle Lowry got with the Heat, like 3 years, like $120 million. He's going to give him a massive contract. I hate to say it. Tobias Harris will take the fall on the sword. They'll trade him away. I don't know what they'll do. But Daryl Morey is so dead set on James Harden being the answer that he's blinded. He doesn't do anything else to fix this team. So to an extent, while I put most of the blame on Glenn Rivers, you got to have some sympathy for Glenn Rivers too. Because look at the bench he's dealing with. Look at the team he's dealing with. It's all Daryl Morey's fault. That part of it. It really is. Daryl Morey is the one that failed Glenn Rivers. Now, Glenn Rivers, if he's supposedly one of the top 10 coaches of all time, 4th in playoff wins all time, 8th in wins all time NBA history, you would think a coach with that pedigree would be smart enough to make it work. Because, like I said, this Miami Heat team is not that good, in my opinion. You'd think he'd make it work. He'd find a way to make it work. But again, the third part of that thing, Daryl Morey, Glenn Rivers, is that he's missing his best player in Joel Embiid. And again, it all comes full circle back to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is the MVP of this league. And you see it right now in the way this series is playing out so far in the first 2 games. You just do. We've got Furkan Korkmaz, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle coming off our bench. The Miami Heat have Tyler Hero coming off their bench. Victor Oladipo coming off their bench. Big difference there. Big difference. Hell, Martin coming off their bench. They basically ran a 7-man rotation with Martin getting 13 minutes and Dedmon playing 11 backup center minutes. But that's the way you should play. I mean, look at the difference there. Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo versus rolling out there, Matisse Thybulle and Furkan Korkmaz. Our bench, I forget, they said it on the air last night, 8-10. We had 19 bench points. Just Hero and Oladipo, the other guys scored. Just Hero and Oladipo had 37 points off the bench. That's a massive, massive defense. Uh-oh, Scotty wants to say something to be fair here. I'm putting the blame everywhere, Scotty. That is a fair point. Hero off the bench is like Maxey to the bench. We talked about this season whether moving Maxey to the bench was an option when James Harden got here. I still you can't at this point. But so I'm looking at their lineup right now. Who's going to the bench in place if you move Tyler Hero to the starting lineup, you put Vincent or Struss on the bench, but those guys knock down shots too. I would take Vincent or Struss off my bench over the guys coming off our bench right now. They're a little bit less known, they're not as big. I don't know. Just the top 7 guys on the Heat are better than the top 7 guys on the Sixers when Joel Embiid is not in the picture. And that's part of it as well. Look, full circle here. Joel Embiid's not playing. That is the biggest problem here. Absolutely. It's not even crazy. It's absolutely the case. Danny Green, though, Scotty, if you missed the beginning, I'm still giving Danny Green some credit because at least Danny Green's trying. Matisse Thybulle took 0 shots in his 21 minutes. Danny Green, he was 1 of 9 from deep. But some of those shots were bad shots because he was getting the ball late in the shot clock in a bad position because James Harden holds that ball at the top of the key, at the top of the arc, way too long, waits too long to get the offense into a flow. And then you got guys like Maxey and Danny Green hoisting up awful shots at awful times. But at least where Matisse, his defense is affected by bad offense, Danny Green is still an active defender. He didn't have a great game last night. He was beat a lot last night, but at least the effort was there from Danny Green. He's one of the few guys putting effort on the court at all times. But yeah, Vincent and Struss, better than 4 guys that played significant minutes last night. At least. It's sad. It really is. Joel Embiid changes everything, guys. If Joel Embiid's back for game 3, it flips the script. It puts guys in a better position. Everything changes. He has been terrible this series. The effort's been there. I'm just looking for a little glimmers. You can't take Danny out of the rotation at this point, or even the starting lineup, because there's nobody better. You can't put Matisse in there. Matisse is given literally zilch. George Niang, he's either missing shots or he's fouling out in 10 minutes. There is no other option. At least he's trying. At least he's trying, Danny Green. But again, you put Joel in there, all of a sudden things start to change. You're not relying on Danny Green to take 10 shots in a game. You're not relying on, hoping in a prayer that James Harden becomes 26-year-old MVP James Harden again. Everything changes. But again, Glenn Rivers still has to use the right guys off the bench, not roll Furkan for 20 minutes. Again, not play Shake Milton. Why Furkan? It all goes. But again, you're playing Furkan and Shake or whoever. We're arguing about these guys off the bench because it's Daryl Morey's fault for providing Glenn Rivers that bench. So it's all full circle. But when Joel Embiid's in there, Joel Embiid plays 38 to 40 minutes. Everything else shakes out. DeAndre Jordan doesn't play. You can use 10 minutes of Paul Reed, full energy. You saw last night his energy level, a little different Paul Reed at times. Because he was probably told, we need you for 20-plus minutes. We can't have you failing out in 10 minutes. Control your energy. And then all of a sudden, you saw it change the way he played. It's all full circle. Joel Embiid takes some of the pressure off of Glenn Rivers, takes some of the pressure off of Daryl Morey, but it all comes back to Joel Embiid is truly the MVP of the team. But still, as the original question of the show is, Glenn Rivers, is he failing this team? He is. And again, for those tuning in late, he is no longer Doc Rivers. We are just trying to retrain our brains to call him just Glenn Rivers at this point because he's not the Doc. I'm not calling him Doc anymore. We're going to take a quick pause in the show here real quick, pay a quick bill here, play a quick commercial. We'll be right back to continue this conversation here in a second. What's up, everybody? Phil Stiefel here, trending in the AM. Look at this site right here, 99jersey.com. Proud supporter of all Trending in the AM shows. Make sure you check them out. Like I said, 99jersey.com. They have the best jerseys of all your favorite athletes from high school, college, movies, TV shows. You got the Kobe Bryant, Lower Merion, the Charlie Conway, Mighty Ducks. Everybody always asks where I got my Sugar Shane Falco jersey back there from the Replacements movie. 99jersey.com. Magic Johnson, Michigan State, Lonzo Ball, Jalen Rose, you name it, Russell Westbrook, you name it, they've got it on this site. Make sure you check them out, 99jersey.com. Use promo code TRENDING at checkout. It gets you 15% off right away. 99jersey.com, promo code TRENDING. Support the podcast. that brings you the heat every single morning. And we're back here on Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like button, share button, retweet button. You know the drill. Make sure you take care of that as we continue to go here. Man, I plan on spending 30 minutes on Sixers, 30 minutes on Phillies here today. We're at the 40-minute mark. I haven't even started talking about game 3 yet or what my expectations are. Look, tomorrow morning show, we're going to be pre-recording live. We're going to be pre-recording it tonight, about 9:30 tonight. Myself, Mark, Jason, maybe some other people. We'll see how it goes. So I won't talk too much more about the Sixers here, but really, like I said, it comes down to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's back. Got a chance. If he doesn't come back, series is over, guys. That's the way it is. But the question of the show was, I put Doc Rivers' name in the show title. We're calling him Glenn Rivers. Is Glenn Rivers and Joe Girardi failing this city? Well, who's the superhero? You have failed this city. I forget. Some superhero used to say something like that. I don't know. Somebody did. I'm not sure. Or something along those lines. I'm a superhero guy, but man, I just don't remember certain things. Anyway, Doc Rivers and Joe Girardi failing this city. So let's move to those Phillies, who last night had a game against the Texas Rangers. They lost 2-1 in 10 innings. Joe Girardi, did he fail this team? Again last night. We just got swept in a 2-game set against a team that coming in the series had 8 wins on this season. And at what point do we finally decide to say, we can't fire Glenn Rivers at this point. We're in the second round of the playoff. We're in the Eastern Conference semifinals. We're in mid-May now almost. May 5th, May 6th. Today's Cinco de Mayo. Today's May 5th. Hey, happy Cinco de Mayo. Let's go get some tacos today, everybody. Hey, how about that? I just realized that right now. It's Cinco de Mayo. How about that? And supposedly I was told I forgot that yesterday was May the 4th, and I didn't make any cheesy May the 4th be with you jokes on the show. Someone told me that late last night. Whatever. It's only May 5th. It is not too late to get rid of Joe Girardi and still salvage the season. But if you wait 2-3 more weeks, I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. There's a chance we're 12 games out, 13 games out at the end of May if we continue on this current trajectory. And it starts with Joe Girardi. Dave Dombrowski, I'm not going to give him as much flack as Daryl Morey, because Dave Dombrowski came into a really shitty situation. He's made changes to this team so far. Not enough. He's still got more work to do. But at least we know Dave Dombrowski has won titles. He's won World Series rings. He has proven that eventually he can get his system over the top. Daryl Morey hasn't. And that's why I have an issue with Daryl Morey. But Joe Girardi right now is one of the main issues with the Phillies. I mean, the starting pitching is an issue. But last night, Zach Wheeler, a gem, a masterpiece, okay, of a game last night. 7 2/3. He was pulled out in the 8th inning with 2 outs in the 8th inning. He had given up 6 hits and 1 walk, struck out 7. He had, I'm trying to read this screen here. ESPN's pretty tiny numbers here. 78 pitches with 2 outs in the 8th inning. And Joe Girardi goes and gives him the yank, pulls him out. What? Why? Now, I know Jose Alvarado came in and got the next out on 1 pitch. 1 pitch, mind you. That means he would only had 1 more pitch potentially there. Zach Wheeler. I say this over and over again in all sports. You take on the life of your lead, the personality of your leader. You know, whether it's a coach, a manager, whatever sport you call it. Joe Girardi is a lifeless, pointless guy. He has no energy, no nothing. You telling me Zach Wheeler was not pissed off when he came out in the 8th inning last night? Absolutely. I would have been. You're telling me that Zach Wheeler coming off pissed off, that energy didn't radiate to the rest of the team? I'm sure some of those other guys on that team were just as pissed for Zach Wheeler that he was coming out. And it's a simple little mental thing like that could cause a domino effect. We were already struggling to hit the ball. Now you're not focused 100%. Your energy level's down because you're starting. Zach Wheeler, at the rate he was going, could have gone 10 innings last night. Now, you could say Jose Alvarado came in, got the out. Corey Knievel, our closer, another great 9th inning. Got out of it pretty easily. Brad Hand came in and gave up the 2 runs. Unfortunately, there was an error by Gregorius maybe that played a factor in it. The ghost runner on second, still one of the dumbest rules in all of sports. Might rank top 3. starting a guy on second base. What the hell is that? That's the dumbest thing in the world. But you know what? I've learned to live with it. But you know what? If Zach Wheeler's still out there, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe you have Corey Knebel in the 10th inning instead of Brad Hand. Now, Brad Hand's pitched really well this year. I'm not blaming Brad Hand for giving up a run last night. But you leave Zach Wheeler in there in the 8th inning, it changes everything. Maybe you have Jose Alvarado available in the 9th inning. Maybe you have Corey Knebel in the 10th inning. Maybe you have Corey Knebel available in the 10th inning. You got a lot of different things that could play out there. Maybe Zach Wheeler gets out of the 9th inning. We just go off the pitch counts. Alvarado had 1 pitch in the 8th inning there to get out of that inning. Corey Knebel threw 13 in the 9th. So you're looking at 14 more pitches. So you're looking at 2, that's 80. You're looking at 92 pitches after 9 innings. If it went exactly the same for Zach Wheeler. You can throw him out there in the 10th inning. Zach Wheeler was dealing. That was ace Zach Wheeler last night. It was the first inning, and I was watching 97-mile-an-hour fastballs with movement from Zach Wheeler. And I'm telling you, it's Joe Girardi and his over-managing this team to an extent. That is the problem. And then it affects the mental aspect of these players, the focus, the concentration. When you're pissed at these things, it trickles into the locker room. It trickles into the dugout, the clubhouse. It changes the attitude of these players. These guys are not playing for him. He's slowly losing this team. And we're only 11-14, but we're 6 games out of first. We're in 4th place right now in the division. The Mets are running away with the division at this point. And now we've got 4 games against the Mets coming up here. Before we get into that Mets game, Mets series, let's stay on last night again. And the way he handles the lineup, Joe Girardi. So we'll backtrack a day to Wednesday night, or to Tuesday night, game 1 against the Rangers. They put Schwarber back in the leadoff spot. He moves Alec Bohm to the 2-hole, something I've been clamoring for and saying was probably a good option, putting Alec Bohm in the 2-hole. Maybe not long-term forever, but, we scored, 4 runs on Tuesday night? I know Schwarber went 0 for in the leadoff spot, but we knew that was, I think there's a curse in the Phillies leadoff spot. If I go into the clubhouse today and see my name in the leadoff spot, I'm going to Joe Girardi's office and be like, I don't want out of that spot. I don't want to be in there. I don't want that 0 for on my lineup card today. But you don't move somebody into the leadoff spot and then the next day pull him out of the leadoff spot again. And then you don't take your guy in Alec Bohm, who's been hitting the ball lights, probably one of the best hitters on the team this year. Put him in the 2-hole in one game, and I think he went 2 for 4 on Tuesday night. And then you move him up into the leadoff spot. And he goes over. Alec Bohm, I don't think he's a leadoff hitter. Now, I dabbled with the thought that maybe that's okay. Maybe he can handle it. But again, it's the lack of consistency. I said it before yesterday's game. Whatever lineup they ran out there on Tuesday should have been the lineup they ran out for the next 6 to 10 games. Let it get some consistency. Now, I know there were some issues with the lineup because Nick Castellanos missed a game only, surprisingly. He probably felt rushed back because he gave birth to his second child. But you go ahead and in one day you switch. You put Schwarber, Bohm, 1-2. You move Bohm up to 1, and then you put your best hitter, Nick Castellanos, your cleanup hitter, your best hitter, in the 2-hole. In what world do you put Nick Castellanos in the 2-hole? Now, granted, let me give credit where credit's due. Nick Castellanos didn't bat an eye. He took that 2 spot and went 3 for 4 last night. The guys after him, the next 3 guys all went over. That's another whole subject. But in no world are you putting your best hitter, Castellanos, in the 2-hole. That has to be one of the biggest, dumbest moves I've seen from Joe Girardi. He's got quite a few. It worked out for Castellanos, but not for the team. You needed to last night run the same exact lineup that you did the night before out there, and he did not do it. Let's look at this lineup last night. It was, like I said, Bowman, Castellanos 1-2. You went Harper in the 3-hole, which that's fine. That's where he's going to hit all year. Then you move Hoskins, who was struggling in the 2-hole, struggling in the 6. You move him up to your cleanup spot, where Castellanos should be. And he went 0 for 3 with 2 more strikeouts. Rhys Hoskins looks completely lost right now. You do not reward somebody that looks completely lost by putting them in the cleanup spot, one of the most important spots in the lineup, if not the most important spot in the lineup, the run-producing spot in the lineup. You don't move a guy that's batting 195 now up in the lineup. You move him down. You take pressure off of him. You don't put more pressure on him. Then you go JT Realmuto in the 5-0, another offer. Kyle Schwarber, who was offer the other night in the leadoff spot, but then went 1 for 3 last night. And his 2 outs last night were hard hit, deep fly balls. He just missed 2 home runs last night. Kyle Schwarber's actually hitting the ball better than his 193 average says. He's got a near 800 OPS right now. He's hitting the ball hard. He's just hitting it hard right at people right now. Segura down the 7 hole, 1 for 4. Didi 1 for 4. Again, you still are running Matt Vierling out there. Again, it's an issue. Odubel not starting. I don't know if he didn't start last night because of the allergies again. I know they're bad. I'm struggling mightily right now. But he's still good enough to play. Come in late in the game. You're not going to play Odubel. You might as well start Roman Quinn at this point. I know that's scary and pathetic to say, but it feels like Roman Quinn's been a Philly for like 200 years at this point. And he's 28 years old. But, dude, while he's healthy, just use him. At least when he gets on base, he can create a run with his speed when he gets on base. And he hasn't had a bad short start to this season. He's hitting near 300. He's got already in his minimal usage, he's got 3 steals already. The speed is still there. Take advantage of it while you got him, because at some point he's going to get hurt again. So take advantage of it. But this lineup last night, this is just Joe Girardi. Literally, he knows he's on the hot seat right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't told already he's on the hot seat. And he's just trying every day, throwing spaghetti up against the wall to see if it's done and it's going to stick. He's doing that with the lineup. Let's just throw a dart at every person's name. First dart, you're leading off. Second dart, you're hitting second. Because he doesn't have any idea what he's doing. He would have a better chance of turning this team around if he just stuck to one lineup. And if last night's lineup he rolled out there tonight with Bohm 1, Castellanos 2, oh my God. I don't know what I'm going to do. Because Nick Castellanos is not a 2-hole hitter. It's scary. It's sad. It's pathetic. So again, Joe Girardi is failing this team. And let's look at this here. Let me pull up my Phillies here. Today, they play the Mets tonight, 6:45. Again, just like other people, I love the 6:45 start time during the week. It's fantastic. We're going up against Taijuan Walker, another guy, injured a lot, whatever. We're going up against Aaron Nola, who has pitched better. I'm going to pull up his things here real quick. Aaron Nola, I know he lost against the Mets. He pitched okay, 7 hits, 3 runs in his last game against the Mets. But for the most part this year, he's pitched better than, in my opinion, expected. He's still not pitching great. He's still not an ace. He's still not a Cy Young Aaron Nola, but he's pitching manageable baseball. 2 games ago against Milwaukee, he lost 1-0. He went 7 shutout innings. His last 3 starts, so he's had 5 starts this year. His last 3 starts combined, the Phillies have scored a combined 1 run for Aaron Nola so far. So that's when you start to press as a pitcher. That's when you start to feel like last night, Zach Wheeler probably thought the same thing. Dude, if I give up 1 run, we lose. I have to be perfect. And that's probably what Aaron Nola feels like at this point. That there's nothing he can do wrong, or it's an instant loss. And that's when you hang a breaking ball over the plate, and Aaron Nola gives up one of those home runs that he those bombs that he always gives up, because he feels like he's got to be perfect. Aaron Nola's not going to pitch to the tune of a 3 ERA, but 3.9 where he's at right now, 4. That in this day and age, 3.9, 4.1. That's not a bad ERA in baseball anymore. It's not a great ERA, but it's not a bad. That used to be 4 used to be a bad ERA. Now that's pretty average. That's number 2, number 3 level. But when you're getting no run support, because the offense that's supposed to be so good stinks, because your manager is just randomly sticking you in the lineup at random spots, there's a real thing to be said there. When you're put in different spots of the lineup, there's a different approach to the plate. And I know they interviewed Alec Bohm before the game about being the leadoff hitter, and he said, "I'm not going to approach it any differently." That's BS. That's just baseball. You have to approach when you're in the 1 hole differently than the 2 hole, than the 6 hole, than the 4 hole, than the 8 hole. There's different pressure in each spot of the lineup. So you can't get into a rhythm at all. And then you go out and give up no run. Look, I feel bad for Aaron Nola. I've been hard on Aaron Nola. Rightfully so, I think. But when you've got one run of run support in the last 3 starts combined, that's a problem. Taijuan Walker, we're going up against tonight. He pitched against us back on Saturday, the 30th of April. Went 5 innings, gave up 2 hits. I think he came out of that game early because of arm issue. He hasn't pitched since then. It is what it is. Will we be able to beat the Mets tonight? I don't know. The Mets are still great. I mean, they lost their last game against the Braves 9-2, but they're still in first place by 6 games. We got 4 games against them. Do you imagine if we get swept by the Mets this weekend, which there is a part of me that says that that's a possibility, that we are 10 games out of first place by the end of this weekend. Now, we go 2-2, great. If we can go 2-2, that's a win in my book at this point. We go 1-3. We're 8 games out now. That's bad. So Joe Girardi's failing this team. Is there a scenario in your head that after this Mets series that Joe Girardi is fired? I'm thinking they would have to get swept and fall to 10 games out for him to get relieved of his duties. To lose 6 straight after sweeping the Rockies. Dude, we just swept the Rockies. It was like last week. It feels like 6 years ago. And, so is there a scenario where we lose 6 in a row, the 2 against the Rangers, and then get swept by the Mets? If they fire, is 1-3 a fireable offense? I don't know. I think if we go 1-3, he's still safe, which he shouldn't be. At least short-term safe. 2-2, he's definitely not going anywhere. Would it surprise you if we go 4-0? That would be the totally Philly thing to do. Go 4-0 against the Mets here. Because it is the Mets, and we, in the past, have had the Mets number. I don't know. But Joe Girardi's failing this team. And in my opinion, maybe at the end of this weekend, Monday, when we come on the air for Overreaction Monday, we'll be talking about how they should be firing Joe Girardi. And we might be talking about, when will it happen? Tuesday, I might be talking about who's taking over. I don't know. Do you fire the manager on after a Sunday 1:00 game before you head out on a West Coast trip? That's the problem. Are you really going to fire your coach on Sunday and then have 7 games on the West Coast, 3 against Seattle and 4 against the Dodgers with an interim manager? Maybe that's actually the point of time to do it when you're on the road and your team can rally together. I don't know. But you're looking at, you got Nola, Walker tonight. Then you got Gibson and Scherzer on Friday night. That's a tough one. Eflin, Bassett on Saturday. Maybe that's where we get one. Suarez, Carrasco. How's Carrasco doing this year? Carlos Carrasco, former Philly. He's got a 3.3 ERA. He's pitched 5 times. He's got a 3.3 ERA, and he had a game where he gave up 8 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Carlos Carrasco's pitching fan. Yeah, he did that. Then he bounced back the next game with an 8 shutout innings against the Braves on Tuesday. Carlos Carrasco, man. I love the Carlos Carrasco story. Hot prospect of the Phillies. Goes to the Indians in a trade. Ends up with cancer. Beats cancer. Comes back. Pitches. I think he's had arm surgery as well. Really good pitcher. I'm a big fan of Carlos Carrasco's story. I hate him because he's on the Mets, but his story is a good inspirational story. But you look at these. There's nothing that evokes confidence. Looking at this series against the Mets, there really isn't. So, do we fire Joe Girardi? Joe Girardi is failing this team. Glenn Rivers is failing this city. Who would have ever thought that the person that's failing this city the least is Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, president of the Philadelphia Eagles? Man, could you imagine how grumpy this city would be right now if he had a bad draft? If he didn't go out and get A.J. Brown? Man, things would be totally different right now. It would be even worse. But at least we've got some hope and prayers for maybe some positivity with the Eagles coming up here this upcoming season, because right now things are looking pretty doom and gloom. We didn't even talk Flyers, and Chuck Fletcher spoke, and I didn't even listen to it. Doesn't matter at this point. What's up with the Flyers? I don't care. Thank God for the Union. I've actually watched a few Union games. Best damn team in the city. Best damn team on TV right now, that's for sure. Man, Joe Girardi and Glenn, we're not calling him Doc Rivers, are failing this city. Thank you all very much for tuning in today to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. It's been fantastic. That hour solo just flew on by. So I greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're watching this on replay, make sure you hit subscribe, thumbs up. Make sure you hit follow, share it out to everybody. Let them know. Do what my man Mark does. Plug us in the car. Plug us in, turn on Apple CarPlay, Google CarPlay, depending on what you got. Just plug it into your car. You can listen to it through the sound system. I'm sure my voice sounds awful on the radio speakers, but, hey, I'm going to blame the allergies for my voice today. But everybody have a great Thursday. Like I said, tomorrow we won't be live. We will have a show tomorrow. We're going to record it tonight. I got a really busy day tomorrow at the pizza shop. I got a busy day today prepping for tomorrow's busy day at the pizza shop. But we will pre-record tomorrow's show tonight. We'll talk Phillies. We'll talk Sixers. We'll talk a little bit of everything. Maybe we'll even go over an hour because we won't be on that time constraint of me getting to work. But Jason Voorhees, Mark Moscatelli will be recording with me. I'm not sure. I'll reach out to the rest of the team DSM, later today. See if anybody else wants to join the conversation tonight when we're recording for tomorrow. So everybody have a great Thursday. It's been a blast. Thanks for hanging with me. I'm glad you hung with me. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. Yo, guys, the sky isn't falling, but Joe Girardi, Glenn Doc Rivers, failing this city.